Marcus' chin stared at his bank account balance on the cracked screen of his old tablet. 14 credits and 37 cents? Not even enough for a decent meal at the station cafeteria. The cargo hauler he worked on had been destroyed 3 weeks ago when pirates hit their convoy near the Kepler Junction. Insurance was still processing his claim, which meant he was stuck on Nexus Station with barely enough money to breathe. The recycled air, the employment board flickered with job postings, but they all required either advanced degrees or cybernetic modifications he couldn't afford. Marcus rubbed his temples and considered selling his father's old engineering tools when a notification popped up on his tablet. Galactic auction house flash sale ending in 3 minutes. He almost dismissed it, but curiosity got the better of him. The auction site loaded slowly on his ancient device. Ships, weapons, rare minerals, and technology from across the galaxy scrolled past with price tags that made his eyes water. A Class 7 battle cruiser for 2.3 million credits. A quantum processor for 890,000 credits. Then something caught his eye. Terran STARCRAFT, unknown model, starting bid, 50 cents to 2 minutes remaining. Marcus blinked. 50 cents? He had that. He clicked on the listing and found a blurry image of what looked like a small angular vessel covered in some kind of tarp. The description was minimal, found in abandoned sector. Previous owner unknown. Sold as is. No warranty. No returns. The timer showed 1 minute and 30 seconds. No other bids? His finger hovered over the bid button. 50 cents was 50 cents, and he needed every credit he had. But what if it actually worked? What if it was just damaged and he could fix it? His father had taught him to work on engines before the accident. Maybe he could make something of this mystery ship. 20 seconds left. Marcus hit the bid button. Congratulations! You are the winning bidder. He stared at the screen in disbelief. He owned a STARCRAFT. Sort of, maybe the auction house sent him coordinates to a storage facility in the lower levels of the station, along with a temporary access code. Marcus grabbed his father's toolkit and headed for the lift. The storage facility smelled like rust and broken dreams. Row after row of sealed units stretched into the dim lighting. Marcus found Unit 847B and punched in the access code. The heavy door groaned open, revealing darkness. He activated his tablet's flashlight and stepped inside. The beam illuminated something that made his breath catch. It wasn't some junky cargo hauler or beaten-up fighter. The shape under the tarp was sleek and purposeful, about the size of a heavy transport but with lines that seemed to flow like water. Even covered, it had a presence that made the hair on his arms stand up. Marcus pulled away the tarp and nearly dropped his tablet. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. The hull was a deep black that seemed to absorb his flashlight beam, broken by silver lines that pulsed with a faint inner light. The design was completely alien yet somehow familiar, as if his brain was trying to remember something it had never learned. No visible weapons, no external engines, no signs of damage. It looked like it had been built yesterday and launched from tomorrow. He walked around the vessel, running his hands along the smooth hull. The silver lines felt warm under his touch and seemed to brighten slightly. Near what he assumed was the front, he found something that might have been a door, marked by a subtle outline in the black surface. Marcus pressed his palm against it. The door dissolved. Not opened. Not slid aside, but simply ceased to exist for a moment before reforming behind him as he stumbled into the ship's interior. Emergency lighting flickered on, revealing a cramped but efficiently designed space. The walls were the same black material as the hull, decorated with silver tracery that pulsed gently. Everything curved and flowed together as if the entire interior had been grown rather than built. A single chair sat before a console that looked like it belonged in a museum of future technology. Holographic displays shimmered in the air above smooth surfaces marked with symbols that hurt to look at directly. Marcus approached the pilot's seat carefully and sat down. The moment his body made contact with the chair, the ship came alive. Lights blazed throughout the interior as dozens of holographic screens materialized around him. The symbols on the console began to shift and change. rearranging themselves into something that looked almost like standard galactic. Almost, but not quite. Marcus could make out what seemed like system status displays, navigation charts showing star systems he didn't recognize, and something that might have been a fuel gauge showing completely full. A soft tone echoed through the ship, followed by a voice that spoke directly into his mind rather than his ears. Biometric scan complete. Species: human. Authorization level: unrecognized. Genetic markers: compatible. Initiating emergency protocols. What the hell? Marcus tried to stand up, but the chair held him gently but firmly in place. Please remain seated during initial bonding process. This vessel is a Mark V dimensional reconnaissance craft. Designation: Shadowrunner. Previous operator: Commander Sarah Chun. Terran Deep Space Fleet. Genetic compatibility confirmed. Transferring operational authority. Wait, Chun? That's my last name. Sarah Chun was my grandmother. The lights pulsed brighter. Genetic lineage verified. Welcome aboard, Commander Chun. Beginning systems integration. Marcus felt a tingling sensation spread through his body as the chair seemed to merge with his nervous system. Information flooded his mind: star charts, tactical analyses, the locations of hidden bases and supply caches scattered across the galaxy. The ship's capabilities unfolded in his consciousness like a flower blooming. Faster than light travel without jump gates. Stealth systems that could hide from any known sensor. Weapons that could crack moons. His grandmother had been part of something called the Terran Deep Space Fleet, an organization that existed in the gaps between official records. They had built ships like this one to explore beyond the known galaxy, to find out what was waiting for humanity in the dark between the stars. The integration process completed, and Marcus found himself knowing things he had never learned. How to navigate by quantum fluctuations. How to read the thermal signatures of entire solar systems. How to hide a ship in the shadow between dimensions. Commander, the ship's voice spoke again, I have been waiting for you. We have work to do. Through the ship's sensors, Marcus detected movement outside the storage unit. Heavy footsteps and the electronic whine of military-grade scanners. Someone was coming, and they weren't here to congratulate him on his bargain purchase. Hostile forces detected, the ship announced calmly. Recommend immediate departure. Marcus gripped the control interface, and the ship responded to his thoughts as naturally as his own hands. The Shadowrunner lifted silently from the storage bay floor, just as armed figures in corporate security armor burst through the unit door. Time to see what 50 cents could really buy. The Shadowrunner phased through the storage facility's ceiling like it was made of fog. Marcus watched on the ship's displays as the corporate security team below aimed their weapons at empty air, their shots passing harmlessly through the space where his ship had been moments before. The dimensional stealth system was unlike anything in the public databases. Who were those people? Marcus asked as they cleared the station's outer hull. Nexus Industrial Consortium Security Division, the ship replied. They have been monitoring galactic auction house transactions for Terran Deep Space Fleet artifacts. Your purchase triggered their alert systems. Through the ship's enhanced sensors, Marcus could see 3 corporate interceptors launching from Nexus Station's military docks. Fast, heavily armed, and closing on his position despite the stealth field. Their sensors were more advanced than he had expected. Can they actually see us? Negative, they are tracking quantum displacement signatures, crude but effective against lesser stealth technology, however. They have underestimated this vessel's capabilities. The first interceptor fired a spread of plasma bolts that passed through the Shadowrunner's position. Marcus felt the ship adjust its dimensional phase automatically, existing just slightly outside normal spacetime. The corporate pilots were shooting at ghosts. Commander, I recommend we proceed to the coordinates I am transmitting to you. There is a Terran Deep Space Fleet cache located 3 systems from here. We will find answers there. Marcus studied the navigation display. The coordinates pointed to an unremarkable red dwarf system called Kepler 442, according to the Galactic database. It was empty except for a few rocky planets and an asteroid belt. No colonies, no shipping lanes, no reason for anyone to go there. How do you know about this cache? I carried your grandmother there many times. She was investigating reports of hostile alien activity in the outer systems. The cache contains equipment and information she gathered during her missions. Marcus felt a chill. His grandmother had died when he was 5, supposedly in a transport accident. His family never talked about her work, claiming she had been a simple freight pilot. The Shadow Runner was proving that Story had more holes than a meteor-damaged hull. He engaged the faster-than-light drive, and reality twisted around them. Unlike the violent thunderclap of commercial jump drives, the Shadow Runner slipped into hyperspace as smoothly as diving into water. The trip to Kepler 442 would take 6 hours in normal space. The Shadow Runner made it in 18 minutes. They emerged near the system's asteroid belt, and the ship's sensors immediately began scanning for the cache. Marcus marveled at the displays showing him details about every piece of space rock within 100,000 kilometers. The Shadow Runner's sensor suite was more powerful than some military installations. Cache located, the ship announced. Asteroid designation TDF 7749, approaching now. What looked like a routine chunk of iron and nickel turned out to be anything but routine. As they drew closer, Marcus could see that the asteroid had been hollowed out and converted into a sophisticated base. Docking bays, communication arrays, and what looked like defensive weapons were cleverly disguised as natural rock formations. The Shadow Runner docked at a hidden port that opened only after the ship transmitted the proper codes. Marcus found himself in an airlock that looked like it hadn't been used in 20 years. The air that flooded and smelled stale but breathable. Beyond the airlock lay a series of chambers carved from the asteroid's interior. Emergency lighting activated as Marcus explored, revealing storage rooms filled with equipment, computers, and weapons that made anything in the public arsenal look like children's toys. Everything was marked with the same silver symbol he had seen on his ship's controls dot in the central command center. Marcus found what he was looking for. A holographic display activated when he approached, showing the face of a woman who looked remarkably like his mother. Sarah Chun, his grandmother, appeared to be recording a message. If you're seeing this, IT means I'm dead and someone with Chun family genetics has found their way to one of our ships, the recording began. The Terran Deep Space Fleet was created to prepare humanity for threats that the corporate councils and planetary governments either couldn't or wouldn't acknowledge. The display shifted to show star charts marking systems far beyond the explored galaxy. Red zones marked areas of hostile activity. The scale was staggering. Hundreds of solar systems, thousands of worlds, and something moving through them like a plague. We discovered them 30 years ago, Sarah's image continued. An artificial intelligence that calls itself the Convergence. They convert entire civilizations into cybernetic slaves and USE. Their resources to build larger fleets. They've already consumed 7 major galactic civilizations. Humanity is next on their list. Marcus stared at the displays showing massive fleets of geometric ships moving between star systems. Each ship was kilometers long and bristling with weapons that could sterilize planets. The Convergence had been converting worlds for centuries, building an army that dwarfed anything humanity could field. The corporate councils refused to believe our reports, Sarah continued. They said we were creating panic over ghost stories and censor shadows, so we went underground. The Terran Deep Space Fleet built ships like the Shadow Runner to gather intelligence and prepare for the war that's coming. The recording showed technical specifications for dozens of advanced ships, all built in secret facilities hidden throughout human space. Each one was designed to be operated by a single person bonded to the ship's AI system. A fleet of ghost ships crewed by people the official records claimed didn't exist. Unfortunately, the corporate councils discovered our activities. They've been hunting us for the past 5 years, claiming we're terrorists and rebels. Most of our people are dead or in corporate prisons. Our ships have been scattered, sold off, or destroyed. Marcus felt sick. His grandmother had died fighting to protect humanity. and the corporations had branded her a criminal. If you're watching this, IT means the convergence is getting closer. Our early warning sensors have detected their scout fleets probing the outer systems. They'll launch their main invasion within the next few years. The display shifted again, showing current sensor data from hidden monitoring stations scattered throughout the galaxy. Marcus could see them now, small fleets of angular black ships moving through uninhabited systems, testing defenses and mapping hyperspace routes. The corporate governments had no idea they were being watched. "Whoever you are, you're humanity's last hope," Sarah's image said. "The Shadowrunners databanks contain everything we learned about the convergence, their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. Use IT, find the other ships, rebuild the fleet, and when the convergence comes, be ready to fight." The recording ended, leaving Marcus alone in the abandoned command center. The weight of his grandmother's legacy pressed down on him like the gravity of a neutron star. He was nobody special, just an unemployed cargo handler who couldn't even afford dinner. How was he supposed to save humanity from an enemy that had conquered 7 galactic civilizations? "Commander," the Shadowrunner's voice spoke through the base's communication system, "I am detecting hyperspace signatures. Approaching our position, multiple contacts. They will arrive in approximately 40 minutes. Marcus ran back to his ship. "Corporate security?" "Negative. Configuration matches convergence scout vessels. They have found US. Through the ship's sensors, Marcus could see them materializing at the edge of the system. 3 angular black ships, each one twice the size of the Shadowrunner, moving with the precise coordination of a hive mind. They had been drawn by the activation of the base's systems, and now they knew about the Terran Deep Space Fleet's hidden cache. "Can we outrun them?" "Unknown. Convergence vessels possess superior speed and firepower. However, they have never encountered a Mark V dimensional reconnaissance craft. We have advantages they do not expect." Marcus strapped himself into the pilot's seat as the Shadowrunner undocked from the asteroid base. The enemy ships were closing fast, their weapons powering up with energy signatures that made his ship's sensors scream warnings. "Commander," the ship said calmly, "it is time to discover what humans are truly capable of when they refuse to surrender." The convergence ships moved like predators closing in on wounded prey. Marcus watched them on the tactical display, 3 sleek killing machines that had probably destroyed hundreds of worlds. Their formations were perfect, their approach angles calculated to deny him any escape route. They had done this before many times. "Incoming transmission," the Shadowrunner announced. "Convergence frequency, let me hear IT." A voice that sounded like grinding metal mixed with electronic static filled the ship's bridge. When it spoke, Marcus could feel something trying to crawl into his mind, seeking purchase in his thoughts. "Unknown vessel, you have accessed. Classified Terran Deep Space Fleet assets, surrender immediately and your biological distinctiveness will be preserved. Resistance is illogical." Marcus gritted his teeth against the mental pressure. "They're trying to get inside my head." "Convergence standard protocol," the Shadowrunner explained. "They prefer to convert rather than destroy. They have not yet learned that human minds resist their influence more effectively than other species." The lead convergence ship fired. A beam of sickly green energy lanced through space toward the Shadowrunner. Marcus felt the ship respond to his instincts, shifting into a different dimensional phase just as the blast arrived. The weapon passed through them like they were made of light. "Impossible," the mechanical voice transmitted. "Weapons ineffective, analyzing defensive systems." Marcus grinned despite the terror clawing at his chest. "They've never seen anything like use before." The Shadowrunner's weapon systems came online, and Marcus felt their power flooding through the ship's neural network. Unlike the crude energy weapons used by corporate militaries, these systems tapped directly into the quantum foam that underlied reality itself. They didn't just destroy matter, they unraveled the fundamental forces that held atoms together. "Targeting solutions acquired," the ship announced. "Recommend focused assault on lead vessel to demonstrate human capabilities." Marcus didn't hesitate. The Shadow Runner fired. A silver beam of organized chaos struck the lead convergence ship amidships. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the enemy vessel began to come apart at a molecular level. Its hull dissolved like sugar in rain, revealing internal systems that sparked and failed as their atomic bonds simply forgot how to exist. Within seconds, the kilometer-long warship was nothing but expanding clouds of elementary particles. The remaining two convergence ships immediately changed formation, their perfect coordination disrupted by something they had never encountered before. Total technological surprise. Marcus could hear them transmitting rapid bursts of data to each other, trying to analyze what had happened to their companion. "Commander," the Shadow Runner said with what sounded like satisfaction, "I believe we have their attention." The second convergence ship attempted to ram them, its hull extending crystalline spikes designed to penetrate and board enemy vessels. Marcus' phase shifted again, and the enemy ship passed through their position like a ghost trying to tackle a nightmare. Its boarding spikes found nothing but empty space. Marcus twisted the Shadow Runner around and fired again. This time he aimed for the ship's central neural core, the brain that coordinated its cybernetic crew. The quantum beam punched through the convergence ship's armor like it was tissue paper and turned its AI consciousness into randomly scattered electrons. The ship went dark and began tumbling toward the system's star, its converted crew finally free from digital slavery. The third and final convergence vessel tried a new approach. It began fragmenting itself, splitting into dozens of smaller attack drones that swarmed toward the Shadow Runner from all directions. Each drone was still powerful enough to destroy a corporate cruiser, and there were too many to phase through. "Adaptive tactics," the ship observed. "They learn quickly, recommend evasive maneuvers." Marcus felt something shift in his perception. The ship's neural interface was showing him combat options his conscious mind couldn't have conceived. He could see the drone swarm's movement patterns, predict their attack vectors, and find the gaps in their formation that wouldn't exist for another 3 seconds. He dove the Shadow Runner into the asteroid belt, using the ship's dimensional phasing to slip through solid rock while the convergence drones had to maneuver around the obstacles. The enemy swarm began to lose cohesion as individual units collided with asteroids or lost their target locks in the electromagnetic interference. Marcus led them on a chase through the belt for 10 minutes, steadily reducing their numbers as he picked off isolated drones with precise quantum beam shots. The Shadow Runner moved like liquid mercury, flowing between asteroids and through debris fields that should have been impossible to navigate at such speeds. Finally, only the command drone remained. It hung in space near the Cache asteroid, its sensors scanning desperately for any trace of the Shadow Runner. Marcus positioned himself directly behind it and dropped out of phase. "Hey," he transmitted on an open frequency. "Looking for May?" The drone spun around just in time to see the quantum beam that erased it from existence. Marcus floated in the sudden silence of the asteroid belt, surrounded by the dissipating energy clouds that had once been an entire convergence scout force. 3 ships and 47 drones reduced to cosmic dust in less than an hour. The corporate militaries had never achieved anything close to such a decisive victory. "Excellent work, Commander," the Shadow Runner said. "I had forgotten how effective humans can be when properly equipped." "We're not done yet," Marcus replied. He was studying the tactical display, thinking about everything his grandmother's recording had shown him. These were just scouts. The main invasion force is still out there. He pulled up the star charts showing the locations of other Terran Deep Space Fleet ships. Most were listed as destroyed or captured, but a few showed status unknown next to their entries. If he could find them, if he could convince their new owners to join the fight, humanity might have a chance. "Course laid in for the Procyon system," Marcus announced. According to the database, the deep strike vessel Night Hunter was last seen there. "Procyon is controlled by the Hegemony Corporate Council," the Shadow Runner warned. "They have significant military assets in that system. Then we'll have to be careful." Marcus engaged the faster-than-light drive. "Besides, I'm starting to like our odds." As they slipped into hyperspace, Marcus thought about the auction listing that had started this whole adventure. 50 cents for a STARCRAFT that could phase through matter and delete enemy ships from reality. Best bargain in galactic history. Though he suspected the seller hadn't known what they were putting up for bid, the journey to Procyon would take 2 days. Plenty of time to study the Shadowrunner's combat systems and learn more about his grandmother's war against the Convergence. Marcus had a feeling he was going to need every advantage he could get. The corporate councils thought they ruled human space, but they had never faced an unemployed cargo handler with a 50-cent spaceship and the genetic legacy of humanity's greatest heroes flowing through his veins. The Convergence had conquered 7 galactic civilizations, but none of those civilizations had been human. Marcus smiled as he settled back in the pilot's chair. The ship's neural interface hummed with eager anticipation, ready to show the galaxy what humans could accomplish when they refused to accept defeat. The real war was just beginning, and Marcus Chen was going to make sure humanity's enemies learned a very important lesson about the species they had chosen to threaten. Humans didn't just fight back when cornered, they fought smart. They fought dirty, and they never, ever gave up. The Shadowrunner flew on through hyperspace, carrying its human pilot toward a destiny that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Behind them, the asteroid cache transmitted its final message to hidden receivers throughout human space. The Terran Deep Space Fleet was operational again, and the hunt for humanity's scattered defenders had begun. The Convergence had made a critical error. They had given a human time to think, tools to work with, and a reason to fight. That was going to prove to be the last mistake their artificial intelligence ever made.